Okay. All right, we're rocking and rolling.
All right, good morning, everyone. This is September 22nd, Wednesday. It's 10:01 a.m. This is the weekly meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners, and we are meeting virtually, as has been the practice for a while, and I expect will continue to be the practice for a short time into the future, at least. Anyhow, with that, we are being recorded and we are live on YouTube. And if there's anyone that wishes to address the Board of Commissioners during public comment, you may register through the Zoom link, which is provided on the agenda. With that, call the meeting to order. And first item on the agenda is to establish a quorum. We have all three commissioners present, which does constitute a quorum. Next item is adoption of the consent calendar. These are items of a routine nature or items that have come before the board previously. At this time, if commissioners or staff wish to highlight an item, they may do so. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
I will make a motion to adopt the consent calendar as it is presented.
I'm going to wait for Commissioner Hall just to make sure she is present.
Yes, I'll second the motion. I'm sorry. Thought I was already unmuted.
That's okay. I just thought it was a good opportunity to make sure we're working technologically.
Yes.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda is a discussion on the petition to vacate the east end of Lee Lane. And Director Kenyon is here to present the information.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Roy Kenyon, Public Works Director for Lincoln County. And today the county is in receipt of a petition to vacate a portion of the east end of Lee Lane. The vacation request is located in Section 10, Township 7 South, Range 10 West. Basically where we're at is off of Highway 18, east of Lincoln City. Bear Creek County Road runs south. This Bear Creek hideout is right basically at the end of the pavement on the county road. When such petition is received, ORS 368.346 requires that I file with the county governing body a written report containing the description of the ownership and the uses of the property and for the proposed vacation. Also, we're going to do things a little bit differently today because ORS 368.351 allows for us to go through this process without a public hearing if we have 100% of the signatures of the abutting property owners and 100% of the property that is owned. Normally, we go ahead and go through the public hearing process anyway, even if we meet those requirements, because sometimes there's nuances, there's some other jurisdictions involved or something else. In this case, we have one property owner, one portion of road. And the map that you're looking at now, the red part is the tax lot owned by Eric Duhamel. Originally, this was 5 separate tax lots that were consolidated into one tax lot. The highlighted white is the actual right-of-way stub of East Lee Lane. So Eric Duhamel owns 100% of the adjoining properties, and he is the sole signature that's needed for this process. This section of Lee Lane is basically a dead end spur of that subdivision. Anyway, so what the petitioner's request is to vacate this for building purposes. Just like the last one we heard, the Clark Loop, there is a 20 foot setback off of public road right of ways for building purposes. And so if you look at this stub, if you do a 20 foot setback from all 3 sides, the property is unusable. So basically, by vacating the middle section of this tax lot, it creates a buildable spot for a residence. Casey, could you go ahead and go to that picture? Next one. There you go. This is basically a picture of more or less that red area. Somewhere in the middle here is where the public road right of way exists. I don't know exactly where it's at. It's not actually marked out. But what you can see is there's a nice big wide flat buildable spot here. So Mr. Duhamel's request is for the county to vacate this portion to allow him to build a residence on this property. And that's really all I have on this vacation request. Like I said, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I would be willing to take any questions.
Questions from commissioners?
None from me, thank you.
Commissioner Hall.
None from me, thanks.
And procedurally, Mr. Chair, this is Jerry Herbage for the record.
You were next on my list, Counselor.
Okay. Director Kenyon laid this out real well, including the recitation of the statutes. So if the board is inclined to approve of this vacation, you can make a motion today, make and approve a motion. And what we would do is present to you the paperwork, the written order next week for the consent calendar.
Before we do that, I have a couple of questions. Director Kenyon, as we look at that picture, is north to the top of the picture so I can ask my question intelligently?
Yes, pretty close, yes.
Okay, so to the west of the red area and the vacation area, who owns that property?
I don't know. I can't remember exactly offhand. It's someone that doesn't live in the area. I remember that.
They don't have to provide their approval of this vacation?
They're not considered an adjacent property owner.
Okay, that opens up a lot of questions, but I'm not going to go there.
It's the whole little corner thing. Yes, I totally understand that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I do know that the little tax lot, basically to the southwest of this vacation request, does also belong to Mr. Duhamel.
Okay. That triangular portion. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Then back to, well, I guess my thought is I'm comfortable with the request, but as I think is our practice, normally we have a discussion on an item and then make the decision the following week to allow opportunity for public input. We're not having a public hearing. I think that might be a wise way to go this time, but I'll defer to my fellow commissioners. Nobody.
No, sorry, I'm just slow to unmute here. I think Council Herbage's suggestion was that we have the discussion today and then we could move to the consent calendar next week if we were all in agreement. And maybe I'm mistaken here, but we don't have like some time sensitive issue necessarily. Is that correct?
That is correct. If
Okay.
you choose to carry it on to the next board meeting, I am not going to be present at that. I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks. So any questions would have to be basically pointed towards Mr. Herbage.
Okay, Chair, I would be okay if the rest of the board is on, finishing any discussion items we have today and then moving this on to next week, even for either a formal decision or adoption through the consent calendar.
I'm fine with that as well.
Okay, I'll have to defer to our attorney. You Councilor Herbage, you indicated that you thought there was an opportunity for a motion to approve this today. I'm sensing from the comments of my fellow commissioner that we would make that motion next week.
That's quite fine. In other words, again, not a time sensitive matter. If you're more comfortable with that, why don't you just move to, it's not a hearing, but go ahead and move to continue this till next week. Yeah, and then you can make a motion then that's quite fine. And that would direct our staff to make sure it's on the agenda.
Okay, do we need a motion or can we just agree that we have a consensus to have this as a discussion or decision action item on our next agenda?
You can do that. It's not a hearing.
Okay, I think we're in agreement then that bring this back as a decision item next week. And I don't sense there are any questions, but I think it's consistent with our normal process. And
I'm on board. Thank you.
all right, and we'll wish you good luck in the next 2 weeks, Director Kenyon.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda is reports and Echo Mountain. Any updates, Commissioner Jacobson, Mr. Miller, or others?
Boy, we got there fast this week.
How did that happen?
Yeah, I really don't have a lot of updates this week other than to say that EPA and FEMA did put out their request for technical assistance, or I should say not their request for technical assistance, but is an opportunity for disaster affected communities and wildfire affected communities in Oregon to request technical assistance. So this is not a grant, no money exchanges hands. We say what kind of technical assistance we may need, and they provide us that technical assistance through typically contractual staff that they contract, and then we get the help. It's a fairly tight turnaround. It's due mid October. It's a 2-page kind of ask, so I'm appreciative of the brief proposal requirements. So we are trying to circle around with our long-term recovery group and others and really put together a single competitive proposal. And rather than having multiple proposals from different groups or different people coming in to have one straw one, I will say this actually does require sign off from the board before we submit. That is a thing that proposal does require, and they do that to ensure that this is actually technical assistance that is needed and desired, and giving elected officials an opportunity to prioritize those things if more than one proposal was made forward. So hopefully we'll have everybody together to propose a single proposal, but this board will need to sign off on that before we submit. So anyone listening has ideas on what kinds of technical assistance we might need to keep going on our recovery efforts, I would like to hear them.
And Katie, I did want to, highlight that something you were encouraged about was, the bullet point that identifies disaster trauma psychology, vulnerable community resilience planning, and equity-based resilience. So, I'll be jumping on that webinar today to learn more about this, but I know that's something you've been passionate about, and it's in there, it's a line. We can drill into that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Casey. I think typically when people think technical assistance, you think of more like kind of brick and mortar, infrastructure kinds of things. And within the types of proposals and kind of bullet points they had, they did have one on kind of crisis recovery, which was good to see. And so we are exploring what type of technical assistance might be needed to look at mental and behavioral health in our community, and kind of being better prepared when it comes to disaster response from a crisis mental health counseling perspective. So anyways, thanks for that, Casey. Appreciate your attending the question and answer webinar later today. And that's all I have at this time.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I have as well.
Okay. Any questions, Commissioner Hall? Comments?
None at this time. Thank you.
All right. Well, again, opportunity for the public to offer some possible areas of technical assistance. And again, technical assistance can be somewhat broadly defined or yet to be better defined. So an opportunity there. All right, we'll move on to our COVID vaccination update. And today we'll be briefed by the director of our Health and Human Services Department, Jane Romero. So welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Florence has a meeting conflict today, so I'm standing in for her. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. If I can, I'll note them and we'll make sure we get them answered for you next week. So next slide, please. So as you can see in summary, hospitalizations are starting to decrease both at the state level and at the local level. And similarly, we're seeing a flattening of the curve of positive cases at the state level and also at the local level. Casey, I'd like to come back to this slide at the end, just with regard to where we are with those booster doses. So let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
So this is the Oregon epi curve, and as you can see, the curve is beginning to trend downward. On the 20th, there was a little bit of a spike. Well, it was a big spike, 1,707 cases, but the curve is still trending down, and we're hopeful that it will continue to do so. Next slide.
If I may ask a question at this point, is there is it reasonable to feel that the spike in this last week on the slide is a reflection of the Labor Day weekend activities?
You know, it's a possibility, and that would make sense logically. I haven't seen any information to confirm or deny that at this point, but I'd be happy to check on it if you'd like.
Well, if there's, I guess, some evidence that indicates that the Labor Day weekend is a part of that increase, I think it's good information when we look ahead, maybe not so much to Halloween, but certainly Thanksgiving and the year-end holidays.
Okay, we'll let you know. We'll let you know on that. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the Oregon hospitalization numbers. You can see in early, if you look at the top line, you can see in early September, we had just about 1,200 people in the hospital with COVID. You can see that's trending down. As of the 21st, we had just a little over 900. The middle line reflects individuals in the ICU. Again, you can see that line is trending down. And then the bottom line, the lighter blue line, reflects the numbers in the hospital, in the ICU, and on a ventilator. Similarly, that is trending down slightly as well. Next slide, please. This is, we start a couple of slides here about our local hospitalization numbers. So with Pacific Coast Hospital, we see they have 5 ICU beds. The gray bars reflect the numbers of individuals in the ICU as of the 20th. The orange bar reflects the number of folks who have COVID, who are just in the hospital, but not necessarily in the ICU. And just looking at the chart, it looks to me like we have about 1 individual in the hospital, at least as of the 20th. Next slide. Now we have the North Lincoln Hospital, 4 ICU beds. Gray bars reflect numbers in the ICU. Orange bars reflect numbers in the hospital with COVID, but not necessarily in the ICU. So again, looks like about 1 individual. Next slide. So we have recorded 467 positive COVID cases since the beginning of September. That translates into a case rate for us of 269 cases per 100,000 in the last 7 days, which keeps us in the high risk category. Our positivity rate is 12.8% or almost 13%. And that rate suggests that there are more folks with a positive, who would test positive for COVID that haven't been tested so far. So next slide, please. So this is our vaccination rate. In Lincoln County, 79.6% of our eligible population have received at least one dose of a vaccine. The last time I spoke with Lawrence, I think we were number 4 in the state. Folks 40 and above are in the 71 and above percent vaccination rate. And then when you look at the age ranges between 12 and 39, we're in the 60%. So we're doing better. Our numbers are coming up. Internally, we're working on a communication campaign to reach out to the younger folks in our community. But clearly, we're doing better here. With that age range as well, with those age ranges as well. So next slide, please. For folks who still need to be vaccinated, they can get them at pharmacies, they can get them through their primary care physician, and of course, we will continue to offer our mobile health clinics. The chart on the right-hand side of this slide reflects the clinics that we have planned throughout the county. And if anybody would like more information on the specific location where our mobile van will be, they can go to our website for that information. Next slide. Of course, we always like to point out that the best way to reduce COVID transmission is to get vaccinated, wear a mask, limit social gatherings, and if you go to them, maintain your physical distance from other folks, and stay home when you're sick. And so I think maybe we can go back to slide 2, Casey, if you don't mind. So we are waiting guidance or approval from the Oregon Health Authority to be able to administer the Pfizer boosters. My understanding is there's a chain of approvals that have to take place in order for that to occur. So it would go from Oregon to the CDC, back to Oregon, and then it would come from the Oregon Health Authority to us. And we hope to hear a little later in the week, maybe Friday, whether or not we're going to get a green light. But in the meantime, we are planning. And at this point, we are planning to offer a clinic 1 day a week at the fairground. We're planning to work with the Taft Fire District to offer a clinic there. We'll be taking our the Taft Fire Station. We'll be taking our mobile clinics into the southern part of the county. It's important for folks to know that these clinics will be by appointment only. They will be for people who got the Pfizer vaccine initially and who are 65 years and older. We won't be doing walk-ins at this point. And so once we ramp up and begin to schedule appointments, folks will need to know that they need to be prepared to bring their vaccine card, and so that we can make sure that they're of age and did in fact get the Pfizer vaccine initially. Of course, people who are immunocompromised can continue to get the additional dose. And I think that's really it. Brief and let me know if you have any questions, please.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Hall.
I'll just say it's great to see the numbers continuing to inch downward. Appreciate the report.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to celebrate the 79.6% vaccination rate in the county. You know, every week it does like inch up, and that's really exciting to see. And I know that's been on the backs of public health and Samaritan and many of our, community volunteers helping, but it also takes 79.6% of arms in the community to get vaccinated. So just a thanks to the community too for being willing and doing what's right. Appreciate that. I guess the other thing I just want to kind of mention and ask about, and I think I've asked this to Florence as well, but there has been some signaling from biotech Pfizer that they will be seeking emergency use authorization for children ages 5 to 11, which I think for those of us that are parents in that age category, like myself, I'm very excited about that. And I know that once they seek that authorization, it usually takes historically about a month or so for that to actually come. But I just want to make sure that we are ready to go when that happens, and that when that authorization is given, that the holdup on getting vaccines, especially Pfizer vaccines, the ones that will approve, the holdup is not us. Like we have a plan, we're ready to go, and we can implement as soon as we get word. Because I do suspect that there'll be, that initial kind of rush at the door for many parents to try to get those children 5 to 11 vaccinated. So I just want to make sure that we've thought about that, have some plans, and are ready.
We'll make sure we do, Commissioner. I've been reading and trying to keep up with that as well. So we'll keep our ear to the ground and really make sure we're ready to go when we get a green light there.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
All right, just to make sure there's no confusion, appointments are required if you are seeking a booster, having initially received the Pfizer vaccine. Those of us that are over 65 and got the Moderna, like myself, I guess we're still waiting for a determination. But if you have not been vaccinated, you do not need an appointment to go into a clinic to get vaccinated. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. Thanks for the clarification there. And really, we would encourage folks to take advantage of the opportunities that are available. And of course, our mobile clinics will be available too. And I think there's a phone number on the slides that people can call for information. We'll do everything we can to help people get vaccinated.
And I'm sure information is available on the website too.
Yes, it is.
All right, if there are no other questions or comments, thank you very much. And
Thank you, Commissioners.
you have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, next commissioner reports. Commissioner Jacobson, you're on the left of my screen, so I'll let you go first.
I have nothing further to report this week. Thanks, Commissioner Hunt.
Commissioner Hall.
Nothing to report today, thanks.
All right, well, I will just, I guess, provide some information that we as a board are continuing to interview potential applicants as for the position of county administrator. We've had some good applicants, and we are continuing to receive applications that we are reviewing. So we are in the heart of the process of interviewing potential candidates in an effort to select the best person to be our first county administrator. And I just want to assure the public and people that may watch this later that this is an ongoing effort, and it may provide some clarification to the frequency of executive sessions that have been held recently. So that is where we are in our efforts to hire a county administrator. And I will say, I think we've had some strong applicants at this point. Let's see, next item on the agenda would be the opportunity for public comment. Mr. Miller, any public comment?
Well, Chair, we do have Greg Brockmeyer here now. That might have been an individual for a previous petition. Greg, if you're there, are you here for constituent input?
No, I'm not. Thank you, though.
Okay.
So for the record, Greg is one of the candidates and an individual that we have interviewed. So appreciate your presence, Greg.
Very good. Chair, I don't see anybody else. Would you like me to flash on written input received real quickly?
Please.
Okay. All right, I'm jumping to the website right now. And if you look at our meeting page, looks like we've received one item from Leonard Lauder. And then moving over to our smart sheet and looking into public input. Can you all see that? We've also received information from Steve Lovas, but that should be on last week's agenda. So just one item in written comment.
All right. And again, if this would be the time that if somebody has registered, as can be done through the link on the agenda, would be an opportunity for public comment, but there are no individuals that have done so, so we will move on. We will be recessing into executive session under ORS 192.660 parentheses 2 parentheses A to consider the employment of an employee. And again, this would go back to my earlier comments under reports. And we will not be returning to public session. The executive session will start at 12 o'clock noon. So until that time, we are in recess. And again, we will not be coming into public session after that executive session. The next meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners will be held a week from today, Wednesday, September 29th at 10 a.m. It will be held virtually. And again, the executive session starting at noon today will be held virtually. So if there is no other business to come before the board, we are in recess. Thank you all.